It's 9:05, 9:04, I guess. Sorry, we are running slightly late this morning. It is now 9:05. With that, I will call to order the regular meeting of the Land Resources and Environment Committee for Tuesday, June 28th, 2022 to order. Are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
Yes.
Before I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda, I have been handed several slips to appear underneath public comment this morning. All of them are related to item number 9. And so I'm going to ask the committee, it just seems to me that rather than have these folks appear at the beginning of the meeting, make their public comment regarding number 9, go through 2 public hearings and finally get to them, that we move public comment to before item number 9. So these folks that are here to speak regarding that, that it's done in conjunction with that process. So a motion to adopt the agenda for today's meeting would change that order. So a motion by Lohr, second by Eberl, to adopt the agenda as published, as posted, moving public comment to directly before item number 9. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. We have an agenda. Minutes of our previous meetings, draft minutes.
Move to approve.
Moved by McAuliffe to approve, seconded by Kinsman. Any discussion or comment on the 2 sets of draft minutes? If not, you've heard the motion, the second, to approve the draft minutes of our June 9th regular meeting and June 24th special meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Minutes are approved. As I said, public comment has been moved down to before we get to item number 9 this morning. So any item number 5, communications. Lisa?
So there's just one in your packet, and it's a flyer for the upcoming pasture walk at the Powers Family Farm on Thursday, July 14th at 6 p.m. So if anybody here wants to attend, we'd be happy to see you.
Thank you. Any questions on the communications or any other communications by the committee? If not, we will keep moving on. Item number 6, review and approval of vouchers. Lisa, again, please.
So we have vouchers in the amount of $29,838.59. A lot of it's just kind of insurance stuff, general office supplies, water testing, and then some educational event supplies.
Peter?
Move to approve vouchers.
Kinsman moves to approve the vouchers, seconded by McAuliffe. Any discussion or question on any of the vouchers? Dennis, go ahead, please.
Yeah, who got the cinnamon caramel pecan rolls?
We did a Greg Judy event.
Okay, thank you.
There's none left.
None left.
They'd be a little stale. Any other questions on any of the vouchers? If not, you've heard the motion and the second to approve total invoices for the month in the amount of $29,838.59. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. The vouchers are approved unanimously. It is not 9:09, so the public hearings will begin at 9:15 or shortly thereafter. So let us move down to item number 8, and that is discussion and possible approval of a development plan and final plat for Phase 2 of the Foster's Shore Estates subdivision. The said subdivision is described as being part of the northwest 1/4 of the northwest 1/4 of the southwest 1/4, the northeast 1/4 of the southwest 1/4, the southeast 1/4 of the southwest 1/4, and the southwest 1/4 of the southwest 1/4, Section 4, Town 10 North, Range 7 East in the town of Merrimack, Sauk County, Wisconsin, containing 29.73 acres, more or less.
So this is the final plat for Phase 2 of Foster Shores Estates down in the town of Merrimack. And so for your review today, you have Exhibit A, the final plat. Exhibit B, you have the Stormwater and Erosion Control Management Plan, the civic plans for the improvement of the site and stormwater facilities, a septic evaluation report showing that private wastewater treatment systems can go on the sites, and declaration of protective covenants for the subdivision. And then Exhibit G is the memo, or basically communication among staff and Grothman Associates who did the design, as well as their responses to our stormwater management review. So LRE staff reviews subdivision plats for compliance with applicable county ordinances and laws. For this particular subdivision, it just falls under Chapter 8 shoreline zoning, as well as Chapter 22 land division and subdivision regulations. It also is minimally affected by Chapter 9 or floodplain. There's very little floodplain on any of the actual lots for this particular area. The preliminary plat for this was presented for Phase 1 and 2 back in August of 2020. Only minor adjustments have been made since that preliminary plat. And for Phase 2 approved, there is very little difference between that preliminary plat that was presented then. Staff have reviewed this in compliance with our shoreline protection and land division subdivision ordinances, and Exhibit G shows staff comments in black bullet points, and all of the red comments on that are how the consultant addressed that concern. Also included in that communication memo are Jewell and Associates' review of the stormwater plans and their comments for each point. All of the comments noted by Jewell to address in the stormwater plan have been addressed. So the developer has met all of our requirements for subdivision as by our review, and we do recommend approval of the final plat and development plan for Phase 2 with the following conditions. 1, a construction site stormwater permit be issued by the Wisconsin DNR. They have began this process with the DNR and provided a notice of intent for that. We also, for condition 2, approval granted by the Wisconsin Department of Administration in reviewing this subdivision, and they will sign the plat. And then we also have 2 additional conditions. One being for approval granted by the Wisconsin Historical Society for possible burial site disturbance. This is just a state requirement whenever there are mounds or possible burial sites in the area. Basically, they'll likely be required to have an archaeologist on site. And then also, we would like to add the condition for financial assurance is provided prior to any ground disturbing work, and that financial assurance will be returned upon confirmation of as-built certifications from a professional engineer for all the infrastructure being placed for the subdivision.
Questions by the committee for Cassandra? Lynn, please.
Just for the sake of an administrative question, what does the Department of Administration look at in a project like this?
I think for the most part, they're reviewing that we're meeting the state's plating requirements. So there's statutory provisions that outline subdivisions. So they look at a lot of that to make sure like road widths are the right size. Sometimes the DOT looks at these as well, if you're exiting onto a state road. So they're just kind of rubber stamping that we've followed the statutory guidelines for subdividing a property.
Thank you. That just seems an odd thing for the Department of Administration to be looking at.
I would agree with you, because it's really not done that way anywhere else.
Thank you.
Other questions on the staff report by the committee? Any other questions? Dennis, please?
I would move to approve with stated conditions.
That is the two additional regarding possible burial sites and financial
Assurance.
financial assurance.
Yes.
Moved by Plivka, seconded by Spencer. Discussion on the motion to approve. Any discussion or question on the motion to approve? If not, you've heard the motion and the second to approve a development plan and final plat for Phase 2 of Foster's Shore Estates subdivision located in the town of Merrimack, Sauk County, containing 29.73 acres more or less, with the recommended 4 conditions, the 2 added this morning regarding Indian burial sites or effigy mounds, and then financial assurance by the developer. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. The approval passes unanimously. It is 9:16, and as chair, I will call the public hearing portion of the Sauk County Land Resources and Environment Committee meeting to order at this time. My name is Marty Krieger. I am chair of the Land Resources and Environment Committee. At this time, I will have the other committee members introduce themselves.
Peter Kinsman, Vice Chair, District 5.
Dennis Polifka, District 23.
Robert Spencer, District 21.
Lynn Ebero, District 3.
Valerie McCullough, District 31.
Randy Whitcomer, I'm the citizen member on the Committee for Conservation Measures.
Thank you. Now, if the staff that will be assisting us today would also introduce themselves.
Lori Digman, LRE.
Gina Templin Stewart, LRE.
Cassandra Fowler, LRE.
Tate Hillman, LRE.
Lisa Wilson, LRE.
Melissa Schluth, LRE.
Thank you. At this time, I will explain the procedures for the 2 public hearings today. First, the staff will read the public notice. Then a staff member will provide the background and history of the particular request. Committee members will then have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff based only upon the information that is provided. The applicant will then be allowed to give testimony. Then, if there's a representative from the town, they will be allowed to give testimony, followed by those wishing to speak in favor of the request, followed by those wishing to speak in opposition to the request, and then those wishing to appear as an interested party. When all of those groups have had an opportunity to speak, I will verify by asking 3 times if there is anyone else that has not spoken on the matter that wishes to speak. Speaking from the audience is not allowed because we must identify those speaking on our recording equipment. There are registration slips for the public hearing on the back table, and those wishing to speak must sign a registration slip and present it to myself or the staff. So if you are here for one of the 2 public hearings today and have not filled out a registration slip, please fill one out at this time and bring it forward. Please limit your speaking time to 3 to 5 minutes. Once all those wishing to speak have done so, the chair will close the public portion of the request and the committee will go into deliberation. And once the committee has made its decision, we will move on immediately to the next matter. Are there any questions from the public on the order for today's hearings? If not, Then let us proceed with item number 7A. That is petition 15-2022. Petition to consider a conditional use permit pursuant to 7.027, paragraph 3, subparagraph G, for agricultural tourism. The lands affected by the proposed conditional use are located in section 26, town 12 north, range 5 east, in the town of Excelsior, with a tax parcel identification number of 010-0985-00000 and owned by Ron and Maureen Bula. Has this public hearing been legally noticed?
Yes.
If you would please read the notice.
Please take notice that the Land Resource and Environment Committee of the Sauk County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing on June 28th at 9:15 or soon thereafter, as the matter may be heard in County Boardroom of Sauk County West Square Building in the city of Baraboo, to consider petition 15-2022, a petition to consider conditional use permit pursuant to section 7.027, paragraph 3, subparagraph G, for agricultural tourism. Said conditional use is located in the town of Excelsior, Sauk County. Lands affected by the proposed conditional use are located in section 26, town 12 north, range 5 east, town of Excelsior, and is further described in the petition 15-2022. Tax parcel identification number 010-0985-00000.
Thank you. If the staff would please proceed with the report.
So this request is from Ron and Maureen Bula for their property. They own and operate a farming operation on the property currently, and they wish to establish a farm store to market their meats, eggs, honey, maple syrup, and produce to the public. They also would like to construct a kitchen to wash eggs for retail sale and place coolers and freezers to store produce and meats. The applicants have previously held pasture walks in conjunction with Sauk County LRE staff on their farm, and have also welcomed children from the Baraboo School District to their farm to teach students about agriculture for over 20 years. The applicants would like to construct a farm store to be able to more effectively market and sell their products to the public, as well as creating a meeting and event space for agriculture-related events. Analysis: the current zoning is exclusive agriculture. The zoning will remain the same. Relevant plans include the Town of Excelsior Comprehensive Plan and Sauk County plans, and the surrounding area is characterized primarily by agricultural uses. For the zoning for the area, all properties, including this property and all adjacent properties, are zoned exclusive agriculture. With this specific property, the land use being residential and agricultural. The property to the north is agricultural. To the south is agricultural, wooded, and residential. The property to the east is agricultural and residential land use, and to the west is also agricultural and wooded. For parking, upon review of the ordinance, this type of use is under moderate parking requirements, which states that spaces shall be provided to park 4.5 vehicles per 1,000 feet of floor area, or 1 vehicle per 4 beds or chairs as applicable. Based on the applicant's request and the limited floor area to be used for the conditional use, the parking plan provided showing a parking area for 10 vehicles meets the ordinance requirement, and the current drive to the existing buildings is a large area sufficient to turn around for customers to use if necessary, and the applicant has indicated that overflow parking will be provided in nearby grass pastures when needed. Septic and sanitary: there is a septic system associated with the current residential structure existing on this tax parcel. There are no permits for the system, as it is part of the maintenance program due to the age of the system. The applicant is working with Blakesley Septic Systems and soil testing to design and install a new code-compliant system for the proposed agricultural tourism use. The installation of a new code-compliant sanitary system is a recommended condition for consideration. For events, the applicant has indicated that temporary sanitary systems, such as portable toilets, will be provided for attendance. Well, there is a well associated with this property. No well or water has been included with this application, and the applicant will need to work with the Wisconsin DNR and Sauk County Public Health Department for well permitting and testing. Property access: the applicant has current residential and farm access from Scenic Road, which currently meets the ordinance requirements for that access. A condition will be provided that the Town of Excelsior review the current driveway access, as well as relevant first responders, to assess the access and recommend any changes to increase safety for that access. Lighting, the applicant has not indicated that additional lighting is necessary for the business at this time. Stormwater, there is no shoreline, wetland, or floodplain associated with the area to be used for the structure or parking, and this project does not require additional stormwater permitting from Sauk County or the DNR. Zoning ordinance standards and criteria. In reviewing conditional use, agencies shall follow the standards of section 7.151, paragraph 5. A, the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the proposed use may not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare of the occupants of surrounding lands. The findings, the applicant's application states that the overall impact of the area will be minimal, as the old residence currently on the property will be raised and a new structure will be built in its place. They expect no more than 7 cars per day during the regular 3 to 4 days of business operation per week. Educational events will be held on site and will not start until 9 a.m. and would end by 9 p.m. The applicants currently have customers coming to their house to purchase products produced on site and host pasture walk events every year. The applicants have had children from the Baraboo School District visit the farm every year for over 20 years, and the construction of a farm store will create a central location and meeting place for these events. For events, the applicant's application states that food products will be prepared at an off-site facility and be catered in for events. Parking will take place on the property and not be permitted on Scenic Road or any other nearby roads. And the applicant has been instructed to contact local emergency services to recommend improvements to the current access to increase safety. B, whether the use will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be compatible and be appropriate in appearance with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and that such use may not change the essential character of the area by substantially impairing or diminishing the use, value, or enjoyment of existing or future permitted uses in the area. The findings, the surrounding area is characterized by its agricultural uses. The proposed structure will blend in with the existing agricultural structures on the property and that of other properties in the area. The applicant has limited the size and scope of the operation to blend in with the existing rural area, and the closest neighboring residence is over 800 feet from the proposed structure. The use as proposed does not appear to impair or diminish the use, value, or enjoyment of existing or future permitted uses in the area. In reviewing the conditional use, the agency shall consider the following criteria. Section 7.151, paragraph 6. A, the erosion potential of the site based on topography, drainage, slope, soil type, and vegetative cover, and mitigation of erosion potential. The findings, the area around the proposed use is low sloped. The area to be used for parking has very little slope as well. There is existing vegetation, crops, and pasture in place on the property, and the application presented does not appear to negatively impact topography, drainage, or erosion potential of the site. B, the prevention and control of water pollution, including sedimentation, and the potential impacts on floodplain and wetlands. The findings, there are no floodplain or wetland designations on the applicant's property. The applicant's application states that the area disturbed due to construction will be revegetated to the greatest extent possible. Based on the application presented, the limited use should not have an impact on wetlands or floodplain or create water pollution or sedimentation concerns. C, whether the site has adequate utilities, including a necessary acceptable disposal systems. The findings, there is an existing septic system on the property for the residential use. The system would not be suitable for a more intensive use or change in flow due to the additional residential area above the proposed farm store. The applicant has been informed to contact a licensed soil tester, septic designer, and installer to have a code-compliant septic system designed for and installed for the combined commercial and residential use. The department would recommend an alternative plan for large events such as portable toilets be made available. Per code, the applicant can offer portable restrooms with regular servicing for these events. D, whether the site has access to roads and highways. The findings, the property currently has access to Scenic Road. Staff would recommend that the applicant contact the appropriate Sauk County Emergency Services and the Town of Excelsior for review and suggestions of any updates needed for that change in use. E, whether the site has suitable ingress and egress. The findings, the property has suitable ingress and egress for the current farm use. Staff recommends the applicant contact the appropriate emergency services and Town of Excelsior to review any suitable changes needed for that ingress and egress. F, whether the site is designed to minimize traffic congestion and the potential effect on traffic flow. The findings, the main use for this property are proposed from Scenic Road. Overflow parking for events will be accommodated by use of pasture area. However, staff will suggest a condition to contact the relevant Sauk County Emergency Services for review and suggestions to be sure to minimize any traffic congestion and impact on traffic flow. There will also be a condition that no parking is allowed on Scenic Road. The Pursuant to Sauk County Ordinances, Section 7.027, Paragraph 3, Subparagraph G, the use shall be subject to conditions of Section 7.044 of the Sauk County Code of Ordinances. Number 1, sales. The sales of goods may only consist of those goods produced, raised, assembled, or provided on the premises. Sales of goods not produced on the premises are limited to 25% of the floor space. Services must be directly related to the principal use of the property. The findings, the applicant appears to meet this requirement and intends to sell goods that are produced, raised, and assembled on the premises. The applicant's application indicates that up to 25% of the floor space may be used to sell products produced by other local farmers. The applicant is aware that if the size of the structure changes or is added to, they must return for an expansion to this conditional use permit. 2, overnight accommodations. Overnight and extended stay accommodations may be permitted as part of a conditional use, provided that the accommodations are directly related to the principal use of the property. The findings, the applicant's application states that any future rentals of the loft above the farm store will be for the purpose of a monthly rental space to family members or for the purpose of agricultural education. The applicant states that the proposed situation changes to rental for a non-agricultural related use or monthly rental, that they would seek proper permitting with Sauk County. The applicant's application indicates that the floor area of the overnight accommodations will be at minimum 500 square feet to satisfy the floor area requirements for a dwelling in Sauk County. Plan Commission Town Recommendation. On April 27th, Excelsior Plan Commission forwarded a recommendation of approval to the Town Board. On May 12th, the Town Board of Excelsior recommended approval with no additional conditions. Land Resources Environment Staff Recommendation. Based on the information provided and analysis of Section 7.151, Paragraph 5 and Paragraph 6, staff submits the application meets the standards and requirements for a conditional use permit to be approved. Should the Land Resources and Environment Committee choose to approve the conditional use permit, staff would recommend the following conditions be considered. General conditions. A, the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the proposed use may not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare of the occupants of surrounding lands. B, the use will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be compatible and be appropriate in appearance with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and that such use may not change the essential character of the area by substantially impairing or diminishing the use, value, or enjoyment. Recommended conditions apply to Petition 15-22. C, the conditional use shall be established and constructed in accordance with the plans, specifications, and information provided as part of the testimony and record to the Land Resources and Environment Committee on June 28, 2022. Any expansion to the use or structures will result in the need for an application for an expansion to an improved CUP. D, the property owner shall apply for and be issued a land use permit by the department pursuant to Sauk County Code 7.153, Land Use Permit Review Procedure and Standards. All state, federal, and town permits applicable to the use shall be obtained by the property owner. E, sales of products and goods shall be of products and goods produced on the premises. No sales of alcohol shall be allowed on the premises as part of the farm store or events without first securing the appropriate permitting and licensing from the town and county. F, sales of goods not produced on the premises are limited to 25% of the floor space. G, any potential future rentals of the living space above the farm store shall be for agricultural-related educational use or monthly rentals. Any change in this use shall require the applicant to apply for a special exception permit to operate a lodging house with the Sauk County Board of Adjustment if the use changes. H, the applicant shall contact the town of Excelsior to review the current access to scenic road and follow any recommendations provided as to avoid any negative impacts with traffic or traffic flow. I, no parking shall be allowed on public roads. J, the conditional use authorizes the applicant to operate as an agricultural tourism facility as defined by and regulated by Chapter 7 of the Sauk County Zoning Ordinance, specifically 7.027, Paragraph 3, Subparagraph G, and Section 7.044. K, any additional lighting provided on the property will meet the requirements of Section 7.091, Paragraph 7. A plan shall be provided to the department for approval. L, all-weather driveway and parking spaces where the overflow can remain grass shall be maintained as needed. M, the applicant shall receive a code-compliant septic system designed for and installed for combined use as a commercial use and residential use of the structure. An alternative plan such as portable toilets shall be used for sanitation needs for events only with regular servicing required. N, a vegetative buffer shall be established around the all-weather parking area within 60 days of construction of the parking area. O, all events shall conclude by 10 p.m. P, failure to comply with the standards and conditions of this conditional use permit may result in the revocation of said permit and order for removal of any structures or discontinuance of any use thereby permitted by the conditional use permit by the Land Resources Environment Committee of the Sauk County Board of Supervisors. Q, if a conditional use is not initiated by securing a land use permit within 365 days of the approval, the conditional use is considered void unless an extension is requested and granted by the zoning administrator prior to the original expiration date. Should the use or activity cease for 365 days or more after being first established on the property, the use will have been deemed terminated. Department recommendation again is approval of petition 15-22.
Questions by the committee and the staff report? Yes, Mr. Spencer, go ahead.
I pass. I really don't have questions. I agree with it, so.
Any questions on the staff report? Any questions on the staff report at this time by the committee? Thank you, Tate. If the applicant would come forward, please. As you're appearing jointly, if you would both state your names and address for the record, please.
Maureen Bula, S. 4515 Scenic Road, Baraboo.
Ron Bula, same address.
Please proceed.
You wanna go?
We've lived on our farm for 40 years now and enjoyed watching it grow. For many, many years, we've done business out of our home and at farmers markets, selling our meats, honeys, eggs, produce. And to us, this is the next natural progression. We've been working out of our garage or the front door or a cooler, and a store would really solve a lot of problems and help a lot of things. Our dogs would appreciate it as well.
So we've held, I think, tours on our farm for over 20 years for the Baraboo Kindergarten, the library in town here, different groups like SWIG, the Sauk Soil and Water Improvement Group, and some pasture walks. And it'd be nice to have a place after the event, or if you get inclement weather, to bring people into, hold them in case it's raining or cold, whatever. So we are excited about this opportunity. Our business is growing now, and I think it will be beneficial to not only our farm and allow opportunities for our children who are interested in working on this farm, but also it's beneficial to the community. It'll bring people into our area, and we're taking a risk here. It's all, we're not asking for any TIF districts or anything like that. It's all, the risk is on us. So it should be beneficial to Excelsior Township and Sauk County.
We're very passionate about educating people, and I'm a retired teacher. Just letting consumers know where their food comes from, bridging that gap, helping build that connection between people and where food comes from. It's not Walmart, it's farmers.
Any questions for the Bulas by the committee? Any questions by the committee for the applicants? I guess not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tate Hillman, LRE. I do have 3 letters here, 2 in support and 1 in opposition. If you'd like them passed out, I have copies.
Yes, please. 3 separate. I don't believe, do we have a representative from the town of Excelsior here? I don't see one. I do have one request to appear in favor of this. Would Larry Barton come forward, please?
This was not the agenda item I was to speak.
Oh, okay. All right, so you want,
Larry's the next one.
oh, Larry's the next item, okay. Ah, sorry. All right. Let's see, I'm trying to, so, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this request? Is there any member of the public wishing to speak in favor of this request? Seeing, I'm trying to scan this very quickly. So I would take it, if the committee is scanning this, that we have a letter of support or in favor of this from Elise Patton. Everyone has that? And we also have, I take it, as I'm scanning this, a letter of support from a Rachel Berliner, E12570, County Road W, Baraboo. Everyone has a copy of that. We will move on then to, is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to this request? Is there any member of the public present who wishes to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing nobody present, I believe, if I'm scanning this quickly, you have a letter from Ed Mortimer, E9198 Terrytown Road, Baraboo, Wisconsin, that I believe should be taken that he is in opposition to this request. Everyone has a copy of that letter?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll next move on. Is there any member of the public who wishes to appear as an interested party to this request? Is there any member of the public present who wishes to appear as an interested party to this request? Seeing no one, as we move towards closing the public hearing portion of this matter for the first time, is there any member of the public who has not had an opportunity to speak to this matter who wishes to provide public comment? For the second time, is there any member of the public who has not had an opportunity to enter comment who wishes to speak or enter public comment regarding this request? For the third and final time, is there anyone who has not had an opportunity to make comment who wishes to speak to petition 15-2022? Seeing no requests, committee, before the public hearing portion of this matter is closed, is there any committee member who has a question for either the staff or the applicants on this matter? Dennis, you have a
Yes.
go ahead.
I got a question here from the standpoint of the possible rental apartment. How does this come into play when we have regulations against, if you want to put up living facilities for a parent or something, that within 2 years after they die, they have to be tore down or
Okay.
repurposed. I mean, what's the difference here?
So their current house they live in is on a CSM or certified survey map lot, which is itself a buildable parcel for a residence. And the current parcel that they are applying for the store on is on a separate tax parcel, which means it has its own density credit as well for a building for residence.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff or the applicant before the public hearing portion of this matter is closed? At this time, is there any committee member who has a question or disagreement with the findings of fact, conclusion of law, or any of the conditions set forth by staff? If not, the public hearing portion of this matter is closed. Committee, it is in your hands. Peter?
I move to approve petition 15-2022, based on findings of fact and conclusion of law, subject to staff analysis and conditions noted herein.
Moved by Kinsman, seconded by Lohr. Discussion on the motion to approve. Any discussion on the motion to approve? If not, you've heard the motion and the second to approve petition 15-2022 for a conditional use permit pursuant to 7.027 paragraph 3 subparagraph G for an agricultural tourism business located in the town of Excelsior and owned by Ron and Maureen Bula. This approval is based on the findings of facts and conclusion of law by staff and is subject to the conditions as presented by staff. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes unanimously. We next move on to petition 17-2022, an ordinance amendment. A request to consider approving an amendment to the Sauk County Chapter 7 zoning ordinance to include amendments to section 7.011, paragraph 13, 7.035, and 7.077. The proposed amendment has the effect of altering the definition of animal sanctuary, the zoning districts in which the use is allowed, and the required secondary standards. This would affect all towns within the unincorporated lands of Sauk County within the Agricultural Resource Conservancy and Rural Community zoning districts. The ability to enact the proposed amendment is granted pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 59.69, paragraph 5, subparagraph E. Has this hearing been legally noticed?
Yes.
If the staff would read the notice, please.
Please take notice that the Land Resource and Environment Committee of Sauk County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing June 28th at 9:15 or soon thereafter, as the matter may be heard, in the county boardroom of Sauk County West Square Building in the city of Baraboo to consider petition 17-2022, ordinance amendment, a request to consider approving an amendment to the Sauk County Chapter 7 zoning ordinance to include amendments to section 7.011, paragraph 13, 7.035, and 7.077. The proposed amendment has the effect of altering the definition of animal sanctuary and the zoning districts in which the use to allow and requires secondary standards. This would affect all towns within the unincorporated lands of Sauk County, within the Agricultural Resource Conservancy and the Rural Community zoning districts. The ability to enact the proposed ordinance amendment is granted pursuant to the Wisconsin Stats 59.69, paragraph 5, subparagraph E.
Thank you. If the staff would proceed, please.
Good morning. I have a request from Larry and Melanie Barton they inquired to see what permits would be needed to establish an animal rescue facility that serves aging and special needs dogs, as well as assisting with fosters and adoptions on property located in the town of Greenfield. The current Sauk County zoning ordinance either refers to an animal sanctuary or a kennel, which the applicant would not fit under for their proposed use. In working with the department, an ordinance amendment was filed, and the proposed text amendment requested by the applicant has been further modified by the department to address public health safety and general welfare concerns. The proposed amendment would affect all towns within the unincorporated lands of Sauk County within the Ag, Resource Conservancy, and Rural Community Districts. The Town of Greenfield Plan Commission met on May 10th and June 14th and recommended approval by the town board. The town board also met on June 14th and recommended no comment, but did not object to any decision made by Sauk County. In talking with Larry, the reason why the town board chose no comment is because Larry's request would also, if this text amendment is approved, his request would then be followed up by a conditional use permit, and they didn't want to confuse the two or provide any comment that would then lead to them suggesting that they would also approve his proposed use in the future. So they just left no comment and would not object to any decision made by this committee. A copy of the legal notice and proposed text amendment has been sent by certified mail to all towns affected by the proposed ordinance at least 10 days prior to the public hearing as required. If a town does not approve of the proposed amendment, the town board may file a resolution disapproving of the request, and a certified copy of the resolution must then be filed with the LRE department before, at, or within 10 days of the public hearing. And the town may extend their time to disapprove a proposed amendment by an additional 20 days if the town board adopts a resolution and files it with the county clerk. If the majority of towns affected by a proposed amendment file a resolution to disapprove, the LRE committee has the following options: recommend approval with modifications to the petition, or recommend for denial. As of the hearing date, the department has received no communication from any town in opposition of the proposed text amendment, and the town of Troy has approved by unanimous vote in support of the text amendment. Attached to Granicus is the existing text under an animal sanctuary, and then also the proposed text, which we are suggesting adding to that definition, adding to the use table, which would allow an animal rescue as a conditional use permit under the 3 additional districts, and then secondary standards, which are permits, setbacks, vegetative buffer, waste disposal plan, escape and outdoor runs, and overnight care. Do you have any questions or want to go through that information in detail?
Any questions by the committee? Dennis?
One of the biggest changes I see here, Gina, is you're removing under existing text that animal sanctuary means a facility where non-livestock animals are brought in to live and be protected, and does not seek to place animals with a person.
Correct.
Under your new language, they would be allowed to foster or adopt.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Lynn, please.
Are there other sanctuaries like this in the county?
I know of one animal sanctuary in the town of Winfield where there are actually lemurs. The animal sanctuary, it's been there for quite some time. I don't know if that definition had been updated as we went through our ordinance. I want to say it's been there as long as I've been here, and that was the late 90s.
Am I correct in perceiving that you're reducing this setback distance from 500 feet to 200 feet?
The kennels have a certain setback. A kennel operation allows a few more things to take place at that. Larry had proposed the same setback for livestock, we associated the decibel level for a rooster to that of a dog barking, and they match. They're about the same, believe it or not. So we looked at the livestock setback, and then we actually doubled it. So that was our proposal.
And then finally, would this apply to other kinds of animals? Dogs here.
Domestic
Would it apply
animals.
to larger animals?
Domestic animals. So if it meets the definition of a domestic animal.
Okay, thank you.
So pythons would not be included?
Not under my definition.
Other questions on the staff report? Val, please.
Would there be any requirement that the owner live on site?
In this text amendment, there is not, but they are required to get a conditional use permit, and that is something that could be evaluated whenever someone applies for a conditional use permit.
Thank you.
Other questions by the committee on the staff report? Any other questions by the committee on the staff report? Thank you. Do we have a representative from any town that wishes to speak to this matter? Do we have a representative from any town that wishes to speak to this matter? Not seeing anyone. I do have a request to speak in favor of this from Larry Barton. Mr. Barton, if you would come forward, please. Good morning. If you would give your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Larry Barton, E12367, County W, Baraboo.
You have the floor, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak in favor of the amendment. This text amendment actually does create a pathway for us to work directly with the township. And we've been in contact with them. We've been in front of the Plan Commission. We've spoken with the neighbors. Generally, everybody feels pretty good about what we're trying to accomplish. But basically, we're a 501c3, and we'd like to operate this care facility for aging dogs and special needs dogs on this property. The text amendment was important just to kind of clarify the definition of sanctuary. It actually added quite a bit more definition to it, which I think we feel is probably beneficial to all townships. So I'm here to answer questions, and if you have any, otherwise just wanted to speak in favor of the amendment.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who wishes to speak in favor of petition 17-2022? Any other member of the public who wishes to speak in favor of petition 17-2022? Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak in opposition to petition 17-2022? Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak in opposition to this ordinance amendment? Seeing or hearing no requests, is there any member of the public who wishes to appear as an interested party to petition 17-2022? Any member of the public who wishes to appear as an interested party to petition 17-2022? As we move towards closing the public hearing portion of this matter for the first time, is there any member of the public who has not had an opportunity to provide comment who wishes to speak to petition 17-2022? for the second time. Is there any member of the public who has not had an opportunity to provide public comment who wishes to speak to this ordinance amendment? For the third and final time, is there any member of the public who has not had an opportunity to provide public comment that wishes to speak to petition 17-2022? Seeing or hearing no requests from the public at this time, is there any question by the committee for the staff? Any question on the staff report? Seeing or hearing no requests from the committee, the public hearing portion of this matter is closed. The matter is in your hands, committee. Val?
I move to approve this and move it on to the county board.
Moved by McAuliffe to approve and forward to the board, seconded by Eberl. Discussion on the motion to approve. Dennis, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Personally, I find it hard to believe that someone would take an aged animal and just want to get rid of it. I mean, one of our girls will probably lose within the next couple of weeks, and the thought of abandoning her is just unthinkable. That being said, I know our society is, we got different thinking people, and I applaud this gentleman for wanting to do what he's doing, and I guess I wholeheartedly support it, because these animals do need to be taken care of.
Any other discussion or comment from the committee on the motion to approve? Val, please.
Just to add on Dennis's comments, some folks can't afford the medical treatment for some of these older animals, and I think to have a place that someone can, in good conscience, leave their pet with good care is a good thing.
Thank you. Any other discussion or comment on the motion to approve by the committee? If not, you've heard the motion and the second to approve petition 17-2022, which is an ordinance amendment to Chapter 7 of our zoning ordinance to Section 7.011, Paragraph 13, 7.035, and 7.077, which has an effect on altering the definition of an animal sanctuary. This approval will forward it to the full board for their consideration. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. The motion is unanimously approved. Thank you. At this point, concludes our public hearings for today, so we will move on to item number 9. Excuse me. Before we move on to item number 9, which is the discussion and possible action on notices of non-compliance for the Farmland Preservation Program. When we adopted the agenda, you folks agreed to move public comment, since all requests for public comment were concerning this matter, to right before we take it up. So I have 5 requests to speak underneath public comment. I will take them in the order that they were handed to me. So the first request to speak underneath public comment comes from, is it Gary? Yes. Gary Mosman. On deck will be Thomas Edaher. Gary, if you'd like to come up, please.
We go together. He's the renter. I'm the owner.
Well, you would follow him, Mr. Edaher. No?
I was first. I did my name first. Gary Johnson.
Pardon? So you want Gary to go first?
Gary Susan Johnson.
Pardon?
I handed one in, but
Yep.
Okay.
I have it. If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Gary Johnson.
Gary
S1
Johnson?
Johnson.
Oh. Okay, I have you up here.
S12027 County Road C, Spring Green.
Okay, go ahead, please. You have the floor.
I've been doing 590 nutrient management before they were required. And I did not realize there was a deadline, date-wise, to have it handed in. So I have had it done since January, but I just never got it into the right place, I guess. So when I got a letter from, or Gary got a letter, my landlord got a letter and called me right away, and so I went home and called in, and I hadn't gotten a letter yet, so I immediately sent the plan in, and I guess that's, just forgot the date. I guess we had a letter sent to us in January, and just plain forgot. That's all I have, it's a big deal for me to, tax-wise, or to get my land, farmland preservation refund, so that's all I have to say. And I'm representing Gary and Diane Mosemans as well, because I'm in charge of doing their 590.
Okay, so I have a request here from Gary Mosman. Is he here?
Yes, he's here also. I'm right here.
Pardon? You're right there, okay. All right, and anything else, sir?
No. Does anybody have a question for me?
We can't really ask questions of public comment. Okay, Gary Mosman?
Gary Mosman, 7314 Cedar Crest Drive, Sauk City. And in our rental agreement, when nutritional management started, there was a signed agreement with Gary Johnson, Sue Johnson, myself, and my wife Diane, that Gary actually submitted the first plan for the nutrient requirements. And in our contract or lease agreement, Gary is to follow through on complying and submitting that management plan. I did call Gary when I got actually I talked to Melissa about something else. I called Gary right away. He sent it in. He was working with Brian, and somehow it just got an oversight. Gary had it written, just didn't get sent in or submitted on the deadline time. So other than that, the farm has always been in compliance. I don't think we've ever had a violation. And our family's owned a farm since the 50s. Actually, my dad was the first one in Sauk County to do strip cropping in 1956. So we've always been in compliance. I think it's just an oversight, a busy farmer that Gary just didn't get it in on the required deadline.
Thank you, sir. Thomas Ediher. And on deck will be Sam Legal.
Thomas Cedar, E6788 Mill Road, Plain. I got no excuse other than I didn't get it in at time. My agronomist was gonna do it, and he said it was taken care of, and I got the letters that I was not in compliance. But in the past, I've never had a problem before. I've been compliant with everything before, so it is done now and handed in, but I was late. That's all I got to say to.
Thank you, sir. Sam Legal. Greg Wilkinson will follow, or Wilkinson? Sam, if you would give us your name and address, please, and then you have the floor.
Sure. Sam Legal, S8302 Valley View Road, Loganville, Wisconsin. So I'm actually not here to appeal for myself. This is based off of my own personal 590. Similar to some other operators that are here, it was not turned in on time. I turned it in the day that I got this letter. It was completed. similar to some other stories that are here. I'm here to appeal on behalf of my landlords, those being St. Patrick's Estates, DDM Land LLC, Marilyn Dishler, Gary Mueller, Ed and Mary Jane Legal, Evergreen Farm 2. My enterprise is called Illegal Cattle LLC. It's my responsibility, and similar to other stories that you've heard in the past, there's contracts in place between myself and an operator and all of these landlords. That is my responsibility to make sure that we're updated with our 590. In that, I understand my own negligence, and the punishment should be on me, not on the landlords. I also understand that, you know, it's basically a tax break for farmland preservation. In the event that the committee decides that we are non-compliant for not getting it submitted on time, I've already made prior arrangements with all my landlords that I will pay their difference in tax. And so you're really just holding me accountable, and I'm holding myself accountable. In that, you're really just billing me personally, which I completely understand. In that, you know, when it comes to actual compliance of a 590, there is no there is no soil loss on my farm. You can come and look. You have come and looked. Specifically on the tract that's in question for, I think, inspection this year, it's DDM Land LLC. The entire parcel is in grass and grass hay. It's impossible, from my understanding of a 590, to actually do a better job as an operator, in my opinion. I don't know that I'm aware of possibly doing anything more. I'm a state licensed and federal licensed CCA. I'm licensed to write these things every day. In that, a lot of the time, you don't actually get your own things done. You worry about getting them done for others. So farmers usually hire me to write these on their behalf if they're not able to do so. In this case, I'm here talking about my own. My own understanding would be that there's no real actual non-compliance issue. There is one tract where soil samples would be just past 4 years out of date. I've already taken those soil samples and submitted them to a lab. If there's any actual non-compliance issue associated with that, one of the staff members ideally would make me aware of that. I'm sure he'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Greg Wilkinson, followed by Joe Prem. You would state your name and address for the record, please.
Greg Wilkinson, E7071, County Road PF, North Freedom. I'm here on behalf of 4 landlords of mine. My father, Roger Wilkinson, John Bean, Craig Pagel, and Jim Elbers. I rent the farms. I had it more or less normal year. The landlord calls me in the middle of winter and says, hey, this is a reminder, we need to do this. I never received any phone calls this year, and it just got overlooked. Then on May 27th, Jim Elbers stopped me in the field that day and told me we need to get these done. I said, well, I will get done as soon as I possibly can. He said June 1st was a deadline. So by June 3rd, I had contacted Brian. We had gotten all 4 updated. They didn't need nothing but updates. Everything, as far as my knowledge, is done. That's about it. It was just not reminded to get it done. I guess as in history, I'm mainly a grain farmer. We're not spreading manure. This is strictly your bought and fertilizer. We're not over-applying. It costs a lot of money to over-apply. That's not the plan to do that. I guess that's the history of it. They're all taken care of now as far as my knowledge, and go from there. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next appearance is by Joe Prem, followed by Tanya Schneider.
from S9153 Valley View Road, Loganville. Similar story, got the postcard, reminder. I had a plan done too in February, but I was more interested in sending in a updated, accurate plan, which normally doesn't happen for me till I'm done planning, which happened on Memorial Day weekend. Missed the deadline of June 1st and got the letter of non-compliance, updated it with what I had changed in cropping, sent it in. We've never been out of compliance, and asking for reinstatement.
Thank you. Our last request to speak underneath public comment this morning is from Tanya Schneider. If there's any member of the public who has not had an opportunity to speak underneath public comment and wishes to do so, please fill out a registration slip at this time and bring it forward. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Tanya Schneider at S4485 Excelsior Drive, Rock Springs, Wisconsin. And I had gotten a notice, and I was trying to ask if we were going to be getting fertilizer, try to get this all in. And with the expense, we just didn't put no fertilizer in. And then I just totally forgot about it till we got the card that we weren't in compliance. But as soon as I did that, I called Brian and got it all updated, trying to get it in. That's about all I could say.
Thank you. For the last time, is there any member of the public present who has not had an opportunity to speak underneath public comment that wishes to do so? If not, I see no requests. The public comment portion of our meeting is closed. So we will move to item number 9, discussion and possible action on notices of non-compliance for the Farmland Preservation Program.
Good morning. So I guess for new folks, I will just give a very quick overview of the Farmland Preservation Program and kind of what's involved today. So the Farmland Preservation Program is a program where farmers meet certain performance standards on their farms, and for that they receive a tax credit. So what I handed out to you is a summary of those performance standards that they have to meet. Those performance standards are also what has been incorporated into our ordinance. So these are also standards that we would expect all farms to meet in Sauk County. So how the process works is every 4 years we do status reviews on these farms to be on the farm to make sure that what they say is happening. So we look at all those performance standards, and then we typically follow up with any issues that need to be addressed. So in the past, we have had a deadline for the nutrient management plan to be submitted to our department by December 31st. This has not been a great date for submission because it coincides with hunting, holidays, harvest, soil sampling on farms, so it just has not been a good date to have folks send things in by. So this year is the first year that we've had a really solid push for a June 1st deadline. In the past, we had also provided a number of reminders to folks that that deadline was occurring. This year, we chose to send out one reminder in December. And so also on Granicus, I put an example of the postcard that we send out. We've tried to really cover all of our bases and all the situations that may occur by saying, if you hire a consultant to write this plan, please contact your consultant immediately to have the plan updated. If you rent your land,
please contact your renter and make sure that this is taken care of before the deadline. If you write your own nutrient management plan, please contact us to set up a one-on-one opportunity to update your plan or attend one of our refresher classes over the winter. So we've really tried to make sure that people are kind of taking care of the things that they need to take care of. Unfortunately, a lot of times folks think that their renter is also getting the same information, but because the tax program, the tax credit goes to the landowner, our communication is almost exclusively with the landowner, and we expect the landowner to communicate that to their tenant, to their renter, so that they get those things taken care of. So that's kind of where some of the breakdown of communication has happened, as we kind of heard today with public comment. After June 1st, Brian Sadler and I sat down and looked at the different plans that we had not received, and that's when we put together that list of notices of noncompliance. So how it's worked in the past is that we send the landowner that notice of noncompliance and inform them that we are planning on issuing the notice of noncompliance. But they do have the opportunity to appeal that decision in front of our committee. And so they were notified that they could come to this committee meeting today and appeal that decision. As you'll see on the list on Granicus, the notice of noncompliance list, there were a number that were sent out this year. However, almost all of them have submitted their plans now since receiving that letter. There are still a handful that have not been received. And so I actually did receive some plans as late as yesterday, and so I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of who is still outstanding and who has submitted their plans for this year. So if you look at the list on Granicus that lists everybody, and you can see by the fourth column, it says the date of the last NMP or nutrient management plan. I have updated those to show who has submitted their plans since receiving that letter. And there's 6 plans that would also be added onto there. So the Kruger Family Trust, Dale Fingerhut, Jim Loudmeyer, John Bean, William and Thomas Aderer, Aderer and Son Limited Partnership. Tom Aderer and Son Limited Partnership. All of those plans have been submitted as of today. So if we're looking at the list of those still outstanding that we have not received, it would be Dan Hahn, Lawrence Wilkinson, James O. Nider, Pat McLinn, Ruth Aitzman Living Trust, Michael Ryder, and Brad and Kim Shivink Trust. My recommendation to committee would be that those who have submitted their plans not have the notice of noncompliance issued, that I think everybody's in a better understanding now of when the deadline is and the expectations moving forward. However, those ones that are outstanding, I guess it would be up to committee if they want to issue the notices of noncompliance. I have not heard from, I think Brian has heard from 2 folks on there, but I have not heard from anybody else on there whether or not they wish to continue in the program or if they plan on sending anything in. They are not out of the program forever either. Anybody can come back into the program. It's an annual basis, so if they get their plan in for 2023, they can be back in the program at that time. I'll take any questions that you may have.
Question of Melissa on her report and update. Dennis?
Yeah, just so I understand correctly, Melissa, there are some people you have not heard from?
Correct.
Okay.
Lynn, please.
Melissa, are there any of these folks that you've heard from or gotten late plans that actually are not in compliance with the plan that they've got on file?
So it's hard to say because when we when we do those status reviews and every 4 years, that's when we really look at the farm fields to make sure that they're actually doing what they say they're doing in the plan. So that's why we have the June 1st deadline, is because we'd start doing our status reviews in June. So we like to have that plan in hand to be able to reference, to look and see if they're actually meeting those.
Let me rephrase my question. Are you aware of any that are in non-compliance with?
No,
the
I'm
plan?
not.
Randy, please.
Melissa, you and I talked, and I just want, on the one that was presented this morning, a change was made, and I can understand that because of winter kill and so forth. Would there be a consideration possibly, farmers are required to report their crop acres by middle July to the FSA office? Would there be a possibility we could move this so that the thought of reporting kind of coincides all together? Or, as you and I talked, would it be better that they submit, and as long as they're nearly all correct, you'd rather see it still be at the June 1st?
Yeah, so when we look at a nutrient management plan, we look at it as a plan, not a certification of what has happened. It's what someone hopes to have happen. And we understand that it changed. We actually, that's why we ask for an update every year, is because we know it's gonna change. So a lot of times crop consultants will contact me and say, you know, I have so-and-so's plan, but we need to take soil samples this fall. Is it still okay for me to submit the plan? And we always say yes. We'd rather have a plan in hand than nothing at all. So again, with the June 1st deadline, it is written into our ordinance. That was part of the Chapter 26 changes that were made. So that was something that was included there. Again, we like to have it a June 1st deadline so that we can have the plan in hand to look at when we're in the field in June. We also submit our nutrient management plan information to the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. And typically they want that information early on in the summer as well. So if we are not able to get that information to them, it just really looks more negatively on Sauk County, because it doesn't look like we have as many acres under nutrient management plans than we actually do. Yeah, so we would like to have plans come into us. We realize they change. But then what we recommend to the farmer, the landowner, whoever's writing the plan, is that when they go to plan for the next year, they confirm what happened the previous year, make those corrections if needed, you know, change crops, change tillage, adjust fertilizers, whatever might have changed, and then plan forward to the next year. So there's always an opportunity to go back and correct those issues that might have come up.
Dennis, please.
Yeah, Melissa, so you go out and you make your inspection, and I know, you know, we've had rainy, there are many variables that can come into play, and a producer has down that he's gonna plant it to corn or seed it to oats and that, but the field was wet. So now you come out, and because of the growing season and that, let's say he wasn't able to plant until almost the 1st of July, so he put some beans in. Is he gonna be penalized for that?
You know, not necessarily. What we might do is, so within the nutrient management program that we have, I might change the rotation in there to see how that affects like the soil loss or anything like that. If it looks like it's gonna affect the soil loss, I may give them, say, a year to make corrections, if that makes sense. So I would, you know, so for instance, if I went out to a farm this year, and I looked at their nutrient management plan, and I looked at what actually happened in the field. If their plan said that they were always gonna be doing no-till, and this year you go out and you see that it's been tilled, looks like maybe there's not even evidence that it has been no-till, you know, that would be part of the status review follow-up with them. I would say, upon the status review of your farm, it looks like these fields are actually have tillage applied to them, which results in excessive soil loss. You know, I would give them a deadline of, potentially next June to make those corrections, to update their plan accordingly, to show what kind of rotation they can have there, and to add no-till in if they need to. So, we try to give them some time to figure out, okay, if tillage is not working on this field, what are some other options? So that's what we typically do.
Lynn, please.
It seems that the conversation is really about whether or not to send out these notices.
Correct.
Would it be practical to say, I'm asking you a hypothetical, I think. Would it be practical to say we won't send a notice to anyone who plan in by the 30th of June, and we'll deal with the rest of them in the notice? I think I heard you say earlier this is the first year you've pushed this June 1st.
It is, however, like in the list that you can see here, sorry, I'm just gonna tally up some numbers here. So we sent out 50 letters to folks notifying them that we had not received their plan. So of the 50, we've had 42 submitted. So those folks have been in contact with us. They have submitted their plans. So there's still 8 that are outstanding.
And some of those are 2017, 2018, 2019?
Correct.
So there would be 8 notices that you'd send out?
Yes.
Feasible, practical?
I think it's acceptable. We sent out the notices of noncompliance, I think the 7th of June, so they've had a couple weeks now to contact us if they had questions or concerns, and we haven't heard from them.
That would be basically granting for this transition year a 30-day grace period.
Yeah, pretty close.
Dennis again?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and I know we've done it in past years, I would move to allow all the participants that have contacted LRE Department or Conservation to be allowed, kept in the program. I think by this time, we're 2 days to the end of the month. If they haven't contacted you, then they're not serious about it. I am happy to hear, and I knew you had been, Melissa, but that you're willing to work with producers, because just as I stated and others stated, there's so many variables that come into play. You may
Dennis,
have
Dennis, I hate to interrupt you, but before you speak to the matter, but do I have a second? Second by Puckhammer. Okay, Dennis, please continue.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair. And I understand, I've been in, you get notices and you get busy and things get put behind, but the fact that these producers all contacted you and have kept their nutrient management plans in place, I think it's only fair that we continue on. But we want to keep these programs. To kick them out, I don't see as being any advantage to any of us.
Would the second like to speak to his second?
Yes.
Go ahead, please. If you'd pull the mic up so that we can.
Okay. I'd just like to add to any on the committee that aren't really familiar with farmland preservation, that the nutrient management plan is a very important cog in it. But I'm speaking from, my dad and I were one of the first ones in Sauk County to do the farmland preservation, and I'm no longer in it because town of Baraboo is not exclusive ag, and so we're not allowed. But in preserving agriculture and Sauk County, it's a very important tool with just a minor tax incentive, because over the years, as real estate market, the realtors pull in your driveway and there's a real fast way to get rid of them. All you gotta do is tell them the farm's in farmland preservation. They'll immediately get in their car and leave, because there's no such thing as selling off part of your farm. under a farmland preservation agreement. So it's a very good thing.
Okay, so if I'm stating the motion correctly, your motion is to reinstate the folks that have complied with plans, correct?
Yes.
Dennis? And for the record, Melissa, if you would please state the 8 names that are in non-compliance then?
Sure.
And I would take it that your motion is to issue letters of non-compliance then to these 8. Go ahead, please, Melissa.
Sure. Dan Hahn, Lawrence Wilkinson, James O. Nider, Pat McGlynn, Ruth Aitzman, Ruth Aitzman Living Trust, Michael Ryder, and Brad and Kim Shavink Trust.
And so your motion and your second agrees with that?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion on the motion? With the committee's permission, I guess because I'm the chair of this committee, I've gotten some phone calls, had some discussions, some of them rather lengthy and numerous. In fact, I would, one of the parties, told me about, he contacted the state, told me about notices, and you folks have heard about notices, and I related to this gentleman, I used to get notices of a different type from the state. I ignored them, and they didn't go away. And so I would suggest to this person that if he spent as much time doing his plan as he did contacting me, the department, DATCAP, and every other person, Randy, whose chain he could jingle, that he probably would have had his plan in. So anyway, that aside, is there any other discussion or comment on the motion? Brandon?
Just something very brief. I'm wondering, just from having a business background, if there is a way that, so on the front of the card, we've got annual nutrient management reminder. Is there a way to connect maybe the consequences of not doing this in terms of saying, instead of saying a reminder, saying retain annual tax credit retention, or something that connects A to B, so that, and then this is merely just food for thought, something that makes you understand when you get this in the mail, there's a monetary value to getting this done.
Sure.
And for what it's worth.
We've had more than one discussion about the fuzziness of our notices.
Sure, okay.
Did you look at the second page?
I did.
Okay.
And the second page is great because it understands, but you also, I feel like when you get it in the mail, it's if they're looking at this page, it's something just to connect the dots. I don't know how to do it, but just food for thought. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yes, I think that we've certainly, we get a lot of feedback on notices and mailings and everything that we send out. So, one, yes, I would like to either have them as a bigger postcard so that there can be more information on maybe a brighter color so they catch people's attention. I mean, we certainly tried a lot of different things, but we can try more. On that postcard, on the back, it does say potentially notice a noncompliance for farmland preservation program, in relation to our ordinance. There could be citation threats. I don't know if I really want to put all that on there. But we also are trying to get email addresses from everybody so that we can start to send out email reminders as well, because we think that could be effective as well. So yeah, we certainly would like to be able to catch everybody's attention and are willing to do more things to do that.
I think it must run with the seat, because I believe your predecessor, yes, when we mailed out, the first year we mailed out for those people that had a second installment of their personal property taxes due, I mean, Eric just absolutely went bonkers over that, especially because it was bright yellow or pink or whatever, and everybody noticed it, but your comments are well received. Dennis?
Yeah, well, that notice that they send out for taxes, I appreciate, because, I mean, it's a bright color. I stick it right up on the bulletin board in front of my desk, so every time I sit down, I see it. And it certainly reminds me.
Yeah, if you want to get somebody's attention with color, Melissa, contact Liz downstairs.
Okay, I'm gonna ask her.
Well, you might, postcards are, because the guys in the printing business are traditionally 3.5 by 5.5. You may want to go to a 5 by 8 card or whatever. I think it still makes normal postage, but it's bigger than a normal other postcards you get. So whatever. Val and then Randy.
Actually, when you go to a 5 by 8 postcard, the postage goes up. That's been a change.
Okay.
But, for the department's sake, this happens every year. I mean, there's
Yeah.
some responsibility on the owners, knowing that that's coming up, so.
Randy, please again.
Well, contrary to what some of the gentlemen in the back of the room might think, I'd like to commend Melissa because her intentions were to get the plans in. And I think when you see the numbers, it really worked. Reminders, I can tell you from the FSA office, farmers get busy, and when they're busy, they don't pay attention. It's rained for 2 weeks, they can finally plant, they don't pay attention to every postcard comes in the mail. That's why we have late files downstairs, and it happens. But again, I think when we look at what she accomplished with this, I know there was some phone calls that they weren't happy about it, but it got the job done. And I'd like to commend her on her. And it's nature of the business with farmers.
Yeah, and the people that called me, I told them, we had discussions with Melissa and Lisa, and told these folks, I told every one of them that the interest in this committee is to see compliance and participation in the program, not to penalize. As I said, I can't guarantee action, but that has been, at least while I've been on this committee, that's been, I think, the aim of the committee. So, and before it. Peter?
One thing is, this is probably a lot of fun for Melissa to track, but the only thing I'd say is, on my perspective, if one year you miss it, but if every year you're late, kind of thing, then it's time to kind of slap you on the hand a little bit. But I understand it's probably not so practical.
Right.
So, but that was my only comment.
Okay, before we pick the color for next year's postcard, you've heard the motion and the second to reinstate or not issue letters of noncompliance to those that have complied with plans, but that letters of noncompliance be issued to the 8 parties that currently are not in compliance, as stated by Melissa. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, folks, for your time and appearance this morning, your patience. Item number 10, discussion and presentation on the Park Service area programs.
So I will be brief. So Conservation has kind of walked through some of their programs, and so has Planning and Zoning. Matt couldn't make it, so you get me to kind of walk through the park stuff. So we have 4 full-time staff that make up parks. It's not nearly enough
we're finding as we expand some of our facilities and our resources. There are 12 properties that we maintain on a day-to-day basis, which range from boat ramps to parks to assisting the Historical Society with the Man Mound National Historic Landmark and Yellow Thunder Memorial. We also are the operator of 6 dams, which include White Mound, Lake Redstone, Hemlock, Delton, Shanahan, and County Road Inn. Most of those are low hazard level. Redstone and I believe Delton are considered more of a higher level, which require more reviews and more inspections submitted to the DNR. All of those we are responsible for implementing the emergency action plans as well as the inspection, operation, and maintenance plans for each of those dams. And all that information has to be kind of updated on a regular basis. We do the annual stickers and the passes for park uses. So not only the county park system, but we also have the Great Sauk State Trail passes that we keep track of. And then we do have an agreement between the towns of Laval and Woodland for their boat launch areas, in which some of the funds that we get out of our stickers, we kind of re-give back to those communities. We will be talking to them, trying to renegotiate the amount, because it hasn't been looked at in a long time, so that's something that we'd be bringing forward to committee once we kind of talk to the towns. We have the campground with 46 campsites, 37 have electrical hookups. Most of these are all booked online, and as you've heard Matt say 1,000 times, this place is just, it's full. It's full all the time. So there's definitely, as we went through the comprehensive plan for this park, we're looking at how and where we expand that campground as we move forward. Then we have the horse campground, which Cassandra here is leading us with Parkitecture to try to come up with a new layout for that park. I think our kickoff should be in July here with that consulting firm. So hopefully we will have something open the fall of 2023. The Prairie Smoke Terrace has seen a lot of use, and it continues to see a lot of use for rentals. It's a nice facility. We've all been there. We also have some other shelters and other parks that can be rented out as well for group events. Implementation of Chapter 10. So we recently adopted a lot of those amendments here in April, but they provide kind of the rules and regulations for the park system, and I believe we included the county farm this round underneath there as well. And then we coordinate ATV, UTV, snowmobile, and the off-highway motorcycle program. So Bob's really familiar with this. We are basically the pass-through for the state funds, and then we work with the groups in terms of getting their recoup their maintenance costs and or additional grants for expanding any of those systems throughout the county park system. And then last but not least, all of the master planning processes that you guys have approved here recently. All of those now are in our CIP. So we met last week with the CIP committee. So a lot of those projects now are kind of on that budgeting timeline. Now, whether or not some of them can occur based upon funding, we're not sure, but we definitely have them queued up and hopefully be able to implement those plans here within the next 10 years.
Questions on the overview? Any questions on the overview parks? Bob, please.
Has Matt requested any more additional help down there with all his burden with, with the mowing that he has to take care of and all the maintenance he has to do?
So we had originally thought we were going to ask for some reclasses to more align some of our current staff with what they're actually doing. With the comp and class study, those have kind of been taken off the table, so hopefully that will come through next year once they evaluate those positions. We did ask for a full-time maintenance person to be added to the staff. I have not heard from HR and Brent as to whether or not that's something they approve yet to put in our 2023 budget, but if they do, that's something this committee will see in our draft budget, is adding another full-time person. And then we're trying to look at different ways to incentivize some of the part-time folks that we have come in the summer, because it's very hard for us to find people that want to drive all the way out to White Mound when they could go to the Dells and make more money. So we're working with Casey for the 2023 budget cycle on ways to maybe if
we offer them to work weekends or holidays or evenings, that we would give them some kind of a performance pay or a stipend so that they're making some more money to be able to be out there. Especially with gas prices, we ran into a real tough time trying to get summer help this summer, so definitely not something we want to keep repeating.
Val?
I think there's more pressure on our parks, and it behooves us to maintain them well, particularly with the new branding and Explore Sauk County initiatives. That certainly is bringing more people in, and use creates more work.
Yep, it does.
So I would support getting folks on board for that. It's part of the economic development of the county.
Any other questions on the parks overview or comments by the committee? Bob again?
Make a comment, I'm saying, as a supervisor for District 21 and a Sauk County resident, I'm extremely proud of our park system, and especially White Mountain County Park, which I'll be staying at next week again, and in August and into September. So I would just like to say that I believe the park system is doing a great job, and I'm sure that they're not always appreciated as what they should be, but we're very fortunate to have them, so.
Thank you. Any other question or comment on the parks overview? Dennis?
Yeah, I haven't, I pretty much gave up camping after I got out of the Army, but,
Just because they paid for all of it.
yeah.
Get to eat on paper plates.
The comments, I have several friends that have gone up and camped regularly at White Mound, and the comments have always been very positive. The only negative comment I had is it's hard to get a space to camp, so.
Some people have no trouble.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Book ahead of time.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the reminder.
My wife is my reminder about camping, so.
Any other discussion or comment? Thank you very much, Lisa. Our next meeting dates are set as Thursday, July 14th, and that can't be right.
Thank you.
Tuesday, July 26th, not 28th. If there's no other business to legally come before the committee, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by McAuliffe, seconded by Spencer. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.